Holy granola! Welcome back to IndieCent. My name is Danny at Nonomi's Egg, and welcome. Catchy tagline.
We're still working on it.
We're leaving the first part in, right?
No, this is all going in.
Yeah, it's all going in, even the coffee.
No, that's not going in. Now no one's gonna know what you're talking about.
Good.
We have an in joke.
My new mic's not here yet, so probably be in by the next one. But you all get another episode of Shitty Mic Danny. Headache-inducing headset.
I remember when I had my shitty mic on my headset. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
I'm still using that headset as headphones, but that's it. Anyway,
I'm angry because I bought this with my PS4, and then I got it and started using it. I'm like, wow, this sucks. And once I get a new mic, I'm probably never gonna use it again.
Oh shit! What were we talking about?
We have a podcast going.
Yes, we're here for Chantelise, right? It's been so long.
What do we do?
I really don't want to
I believe we're here to talk about Nakaimo, My Sister is Among Them. Is that it?
Yeah, we're here for Chantelise.
My sister is a fairy.
And was apparently the sexiest woman alive. Yes. As we mentioned for our last regular episode, not to be confused with the Halloween episode where I went on and on about determinism. Last time was Danny's pick, and she picked Chantelise, a game by Easy Games Station and translated by Carpe Fulgur LLC, who are kind of infamous for Recettear. But before we get into the main discussion of Chantelise, which I'm just going to say right now isn't going to be very positive. We're sorry ahead of time.
I'm not.
Let's just go ahead and get into what we've been playing, and of course, Danny, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so it's been a minute since we were here, so I've been playing a few things, but we wanna keep it short. So I'm gonna focus mainly on Super Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. Or
I think you mean it's Super Dang It Ron Paul.
It's got two names. I believe the Japanese name is Super Danganronpa 2 Despair Island, I think.
I thought it was Super Dang It Rand Paul.
and then there's the inferior English name, which is just Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair.
Oh, I thought it was Happy Trigger Havoc here, because that's what they called the first one here, because they're stupid.
I think the first one was Danganronpa Happy Trigger Havoc.
Oh my god, that's terrible. Yeah, they renamed one of the characters Annie or something.
Did they?
Yeah, they renamed the serial killer girl slightly so she has an English name for some reason.
All serial killers are English.
I would be surprised if that didn't get patched or something, because I have not heard about that from people I know who played the first game while I was playing the second. But
I think most people played it with the illegal fan translation before the official one came out, and then no one played the official version because it sucked.
I had a bunch of mutuals in the past month play through the first one, and are going through the second one now. I don't know why. I think it was because Danganronpa V3 came out last month.
Not to be confused with Dang It Ron Paul 3, the anime, but all three of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Danganronpa lore gets weird. There's a lot to take in. But Super Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair, smashing both the Japanese and English names together is probably the best name. But That I enjoyed my time with that. That was a good game. I never actually played the first game. I watched the anime, which is apparently a bad way to take in the first story because you miss a lot.
Yeah, the anime doesn't have in a lot of details, but you also don't really need the details for the main plot. So I was fine just experience it through the anime.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you don't need it for the main plot, but I
Yeah,
mean,
it's like those.
the final bit with that person is like that goes on for a long time in the game apparently, and in the anime it's just like it's there and it's gone, and it's just like, well, that was a bad villain, and then in the game it's like, oh, this villain's so like interesting.
No, in the
and
anime
funny.
it goes on for an entire episode.
Really? Because I don't remember anything.
Yeah, I remember it went on for an entire episode because the episode before it ended on the cliffhanger. Yeah, but
I feel like they were like just a lot less memorable in the anime. Because I mean, normally don't. It's still less time than the game gives them.
Well, yeah, because it's a game. Time flows differently in a game like that because you're directly involved in it. You have to take in all this stuff. There's a lot of room to put in a shit ton of text. It's like trying to adapt a Stephen King novel into a film. You're not gonna do it faithfully if you want to do it good.
Yeah.
It's why I don't. It's why I don't give a shit whenever anyone complains that they weren't faithful to the original Fate Stay Night visual novel, which was garbage, by the way.
Well, like it. I mean, it's like. I guess a good analog for me is the Monogatari series, which are Nisio Aizen is just wordy as hell, and there are different ways the whole series have like tried to put it in. Have tried to adapt that with like the first season with Oishi, I think is his name. I can't remember if it's Oshi or Oishi. But just like putting in walls of text, just subliminal messages, like one frames of just walls and walls of text, so that you can't actually take it in, but he still put it in. And honestly, I loved that. And then once it switches directors for the second season on, they move away from that into a different style. But then for the movies, the Kizuna Monogatari movies, they take out like all the narration completely because they kind of just moved into narration for the main character monologues, which there are a lot of. They just did away with all of that. There's a lot of silence in those movies, and it works. Like, I think all three approaches work well in their own way for adapting such wordy novels. But none of that is Danganronpa 2, though. Getting back to Danganronpa 2. So it was my first time actually playing Danganronpa game or seeing any of a Danganronpa game, because I'd only seen the anime, and I enjoyed it a lot. Like, I think the cast was a lot stronger than the first cast, game or anime, because the first game's cast is just kind of boring and generic. But these characters were all like funny and likable for the most part. There are a couple that I'm just like, I don't care.
Like the perverted chef guy.
Yeah. Perverted chef guy. I didn't care much for the burly manager.
There was that imposter guy. He gets better treatment in the.
Well, that's a spoiler.
Yeah, he gets better treatment in the third anime, but yeah, he's not that good in. 2.
Oh yeah, I saw his episode in the third anime, and I was like, oh, that actually explains some about him that should have been in the game. But like most of the cast is like great. Like just I loved a lot of them, and it hurt to see them go. Even some of the ones that are kind of shitty, like Soda, I liked in their own way, and so it felt easier to invest in these characters than in Danganronpa 1, because like I don't want to see them die. I don't want to see them kill each other, and like some of the like trials just hurt because like I knew who did it, but I didn't want them to have done it. I didn't want anyone to have done it, and I love the investigation bits in these games. I wish I could do more stuff like this, more like kind of trial stuff. I've never played Ace Attorney. I don't know how that goes, but I really liked how it was done in this.
I would highly recommend the first 3 Ace Attorney games. They're just like near perfection in the way they're done.
I'd recommend all of them.
And this story was really just it was weird and like very Danganronpa-y, crazy and stupid, but I couldn't see stuff coming. Like I couldn't see what was coming happening. I liked the bits where it's foreshadowed. I liked the parallels to the first game and how it used them to not just do the first game again, but do something different with its parallels. I love when a sequel does that and like surpasses the original by doing that. And the whole ending bit was great. And like the last trial went on so long. It was and the villain in this game was it was great. I loved them. I can't really say much about it because spoilers, but I mean, I know this game, a lot of people have seen this game, but I had avoided spoilers for it somehow for years. And people I know are playing through the game right now, and I don't want to spoil it for them. But
yeah, if there's one franchise you should never spoil, it's Danganronpa.
It takes a lot of the fun out of it to spoil things like who's a killer, who gets killed. That's the fun of it, trying to figure it out. Going into a class trial, trying to have already figured out, okay, it was this person, or it was done this way, but who did it? And I love that. Now for the negatives, some of the minigames are just terrible. Hangman's Gambit is awful. It's an awful minigame. Just arbitrarily having you try and remember this super specific word. Like the main trouble I had for sometimes was like I knew what it wanted, like the logical step it wanted me to understand, like how was this murder done, and it wants a specific word, and like I know how the murder was done, but I can't figure out what word it wants, like what specific word, or I know what I'm supposed to put in, but I don't remember the right word for it. Like oh, it wants throwing random example out there. Oh, it's talking about these like high-end golf clubs, these luxury golf clubs, but the actual word is deluxe golf clubs. It gets super specific and dumb like that, and I hated those bits of it. I would look up walkthroughs for those, and didn't feel guilty about it because it was just not all the mini games were great, and that was a bummer. But I still had a great time with it, and I recommend trying these games. I'm hoping to pick up B3 soon because I hear mixed things about it, but
I've heard it basically casts shade on the entire fandom, which is always a plus in my book.
See, that's one thing I've heard, that like I heard someone say probably the reason it's gotten such negative reception among fans is that it kind of like does that, cast shade on fans or the past games. And
since you brought that up, I do want to bring up when we get to my turn, I'm gonna just gush about a game that does that for like 8 hours.
Oh yeah, you've been talking about that on Twitter.
Yeah.
But yeah, Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. I recommend
leave you
it.
in despair.
I recommend it, but I also recommend playing the first game first because you need it. You really need it. I mean, I didn't play the game, I watched the anime, so I had a good understanding, but like I'd still recommend the game just because it's better than the anime probably.
Anything else?
I mean, aside from that, I played stuff I'm not going to get into. I bought Ground Zeroes on sale for like $5 and played through that. It's a fun game with very little to it. I probably got through everything there was to do in like 6-7 hours. And
But you see, no, it deserves to be full price because blah 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 blah.
yeah, it felt worth the $5 I paid for it. And like I bought that because Metal Gear Solid 5 is PS Plus free game for this month. So I was like, yeah, I'll play it, and then I haven't gotten through Metal Gear Solid 5 again. I'm probably gonna do that soon. But I also when I bought that, I also bought Yakuza Kiwami, which is
nice.
Amazing game. I still haven't beaten it, but I've put a lot of time into that game, and it's great.
Every single Yakuza game except the very first one is amazing. The very first one is unplayable.
And now we have it playable as Yakuza Kiwami.
Hooray!
But I probably wouldn't. I still haven't played Yakuza 0. I've still only seen a lot of gameplay of Yakuza 0, and I'd probably still put Yakuza 0 above it, just because I think there's more to that game. But Yakuza Kiwami is still really fun, and it's $30 brand new, like this full ass remake, like from the ground up remake of the first game. Just go buy it, because these games are great, and Yakuza Kiwami is great, and I can't wait to eventually find Yakuza 0 somewhere so I can buy it and play it.
What about you, Elmo?
Been playing mainly two things, but there's something that I'm just gonna have to do during this episode, and it's probably gonna be annoying, so I just want to get it over and done with. So, like, Dark, do you have an opinion on Danganronpa?
Yes.
I'm gonna swing from the Chantelise. That was it.
No.
That was definitely worth it. So the two things I've been playing, there was a quick thing, there's a little point-and-click adventure named, I think, Clockwork, A Tales of Glass and Ink.
That sounds vague. Is that a hidden object game?
Sort of. It's kind of like, what if Puzzle Agent had beautiful hand-drawn areas, and what if it was set in Siberia? So it's pretty good. I really liked it. I got to feel really smug because the top review of the game says something like, "Oh, it's not. It's good. It's worth your time. It's a fun little, 4-hour game." And I was like, 4 hours? Ha! 2.5, idiot. But there is one huge problem with it, and that's that in the first area in the game, you're in a little old-timey pub, and if you talk to one of the girls there, she's playing with a cat, and then she starts singing the Soft Kitty song from The Big Bang Theory. So that was like negative review, negative feedback, negative everything. The main thing I've been playing lately is Typing of the Dead Overkill, which is
Oh my god.
hilarious, and I love it. It's just...
Have you typed in your own custom vocabulary yet?
No. Because all it would be is Roller Coaster Tycoon just over and over again. But oh god, it's so fantastic. It's everything I expected. It's House of the Dead, but you type in words and the words shoot zombies in the face. It's very grindhousey. It's hilarious. The two, I feel bad because this is like the last level in the game, but the story obviously isn't a very big drawing point to it. And just the two standout funny moments are, like I said, it's very grindhousey. Every episode has its own little intro and outro with this ridiculously over-the-top announcer. And just before the final boss, who's this obviously giant, evil, scary monster, then the two main characters, they're gonna go, "Alright, this is it," and they jump in, and then it just says, "Real missing." And then it just cuts to them standing outside going, "How we survived that? I do not know." Like, boy, that was one hell of a fight! It was, if there's one thing I can say, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And then the monster bursts out of the building behind them, and you have a real final boss fight. But, and also, just the biggest laugh I got, just because it was unexpected, is, like I said, grindhousey. I've said grindhouse like 3 times in 2 minutes. But, one of the characters is obviously very foul-mouthed. His first words in the game are "What's up, motherfucker?" and it just carries on like that. Every single word he says is pretty much motherfucker. And when it gets to the end of the game, you're expecting some kind of crude send-off, and instead, one of the characters just says to the other, "So what are you thinking about?" And he goes, "What I'm thinking about? I'm scared that our adventures could be mistaken as a critique of contemporary feminism." And they just go, "What?" And it's like, "Well, think about it. We're two big macho, dick-wielding cops running around, shooting everything. Meanwhile, one of the most progressive female characters in the game ends up as a literal brain in a jar. What kind of message is that sending?" And it just comes out of nowhere. and then the pilot turns out to be a zombie and they shoot him. Whatever. So yeah, Typing of the Dead Overkill. A fantastic game. Loved it. That's about it, really. On to you, Doc.
If you couldn't tell from what I said during the Halloween episode, I've been playing a lot of things. Oh shit, I actually forgot to put one game down here on my list, so I'll talk about it real quick. It's called Press X Not to Die. It's an FMV game, and it is one of the stupidest fucking things I've ever played, and I think I love it. If you've been on my Twitter, you may have noticed I posted 2 images in a tweet saying that Press X Not to Die is a good game, and it shows a picture of some guy from a first-person view struggling with a hockey player, and it says, "Press something not to get hit in the crotch by a hockey stick," and then the next screen is the death screen saying, "You got hit in the crotch by a hockey stick." That's it. It's just, as the title says, you press X not to die. You start the game, it's just some guy in his apartment. His best friend comes to say that everyone's going crazy and he's killing each other, and then he says, "You have to press X not to die." And then cue woman with a knife attacking you, and you have to press X not to die. But then he gets stabbed after that, and then his dying words are, "I didn't press X." The entire game is like this. Like, the final boss, I say in quotations, is a clown who's obsessed with Farmville. I'm serious. It turns out the in-game explanation is that some scientists were making a formula to improve people's abilities, and did it sort of basing it off gaming where you just press a button to do a complex action. And it was like, this was so complicated for normal people to understand that they went crazy, and only gamers didn't go crazy and did have this press X not to die power. It's the dumbest thing ever, and it doesn't take it seriously at all. It's very cheaply made. It's just like very tongue-in-cheek. It's like $3. You can beat it in like an hour. It's like a 15-minute movie or something that you just played through, and I'd highly recommend it if you just want a big dumb laugh. Other than that, the second major game I was playing for Hardcore Gaming 101 was Tormentum Dark Sorrow, which I thought was going to be a normal point and click, just with a lot of flesh, because all the art is based off like H.R. Geiger. But I was surprised to find it was closer to a hidden object game. Like, there's no hidden object minigame, but there's tons of minigames and very easy puzzles. The thing that makes it worthwhile, besides the incredible art, I mean, the game is gorgeous, and there's so much flesh, guys. So much flesh. Is that it's actually about Kantian ethics. The game starts with a quote from Emil Kant, and it's not being pretentious, it's telling you how to get the best ending. It's kind of great, and it's like really thoughtful and interesting by the end of it, even though it's so simplistic to play. It's a little pricey, especially for as long as it lasts, but if you see it on sale, definitely check it out. I've started playing Crypta the Necrodancer again, which is really fun to play if you pick like a somewhat slow beat rap song. Like, I have a bunch of Return of the Trez from like the Total Overdose soundtrack, and just loaded that up, and it's like the perfect rhythm to play that game in. If you don't know what it is, it's dungeon crawler where the twist is you have to move and act within the beat of the music to get like coin bonuses and such, and all the monsters in the dungeon move at that same beat. So you just you only have to control the game with the arrow keys, and that's it. You go near a monster, and if you press in their direction, you'll slash at them, so forth. The trick is getting your positioning right and taking notice of all the patterns of all the monsters in the dungeon, and shit gets crazy constantly. It's really addictive. Oh, and since I promised it, yes, I've been playing Hoonie Pop. Yeah, I'm actually just finished the rough draft for the full course on that series just a few minutes ago, so hopefully it'll be up for backers by the time this goes up. I'm not actually putting this out until Halloween, after Halloween, and we're like recording it on the 24th, so it might already be up at this time, I don't know, but yeah, I've cemented my feelings that on the surface, Hoonie Pop is a surprisingly elegant, classy game for smut. But you only need to look under the surface for more than a few minutes and realize that yes, everyone who worked on this game goes to 4chan.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtextual racism and misogyny in there. But the reason the game's so popular, I've now realized, is that it's really good at hiding all that, or there's just so much empty space between text that it never becomes overwhelming. Like, they hit the right balance, and then they made Honeycomb Studio, which is just disgusting to play. Genuinely one of the worst things I have ever played.
I mean, isn't like one of like the first things you say to the black girl on Honey Pop something about having jungle fever?
Actually, no.
I remember it coming up at some point.
Q does say something racist about liking chocolate, which I hate.
Maybe it was something like yellow fever. I remember.
Oh yeah, Q also said that to Akko, the Japanese teacher.
That was what I was thinking of.
Pretty much all the racism in that game comes from Q and the fact, and like two of the characters' unique gift lines, like everything you can give to Kanya, the Hispanic girl, is just like a sombrero, a lucha mask, maracas. Yeah.
Fuck these words, am I right?
Exactly. But what makes the game palatable is that it's like a 20-hour game, and most of that is just spent in long puzzle segments and like regular small talk, so you don't come across that terrible stuff very often. And sometimes the terrible stuff actually works, like the entire character of Andre, that bitchy rich girl who does drugs. She is the worst, and I love her. It's kind of refreshing to see a character so transparently shitty. And other than that, for Hardcore Gaming 101 again, I picked up the entirety of the Deponia point-and-click series since it was dirt cheap at the time. And I do not regret that, even though Goodbye Deponia tried very hard to make me regret that. For those who don't know, Deponia is a series of 4 point-and-click games made by Daedalic Entertainment, a German company. They've published Randall's Monday, which I've written about before and I want to do a full course on later, though this is going to get my attention first because goddamn. And they've also done like a few point and clicks based on the Dark Eye fantasy tabletop game. One was Chains of Satanov, which was good and very pretty, and the other one was Memoria, which is like shockingly good. And Deponia is like all of the company's best and worst qualities in just like one giant package. The first game, called Welcome to Deponia, sets up a story about this guy named Rufus who lives on a planet made up entirely of trash called Deponia, who wants to go to a floating city called Elysium, and he actually does manage to succeed on getting on this like junker airship used by evil organization that called the Organon that seemed to work for Elysium. And when he's up there, he finds a girl named Goal who's about to be attacked by them, a girl from Elysium. So he manages to save her in the dumbest way possible. They both end up crashing back down to the planet, but her brain implant gets damaged, and he spends pretty much the entire game, in fact, the majority of the first 3 games, trying to fix the damage he keeps doing to her, trying to save her. And the big twist is that Rufus is a complete piece of shit. He is like one of the worst people I have ever seen in a video game ever, and everyone knows it. His one positive trait is that he refuses to give up on just about anything, and it's what's necessary in order to save the day by the end of the 3rd game. The 2nd game, Chaos and Deponia, is very good. It has a neat gimmick where Goal gets split into 3 different personalities, and you get a good idea of who she is, and she doesn't really do much since she's unconscious for the entirety of the 1st game. And the 3rd game, Goodbye Deponia, has one of the worst puzzles I've ever seen, where the solution is basically to sell to people. And god fucking damn it, I'm gonna have words about that. But it ends on a really good note, a surprisingly mature note, and then you realize all 3 games are building up this story hidden behind dark humor about coming to terms with things finally ending, realizing that not everything can continue on as you want it to, and the importance of holding on to hope to continue doing things in the future. And then all these games came out from 2012 to 2013, and then there was a 3-year period of nothing where all the fans were bitching about the bittersweet ending of Goodbye Deponia, and that Rufus didn't get the ultimate happy ending they wanted him to, even though he was a giant piece of shit, and his ending basically redeemed his character somewhat by making him have like a moment of genuine sacrifice. So in late February 2016, they announced a game called Deponia Doomsday, and like previewed it with showing like a future Rufus in a world overrun by monsters destroying the planet. And then it came out, and then they just farted out 5 days later. And the entire game for 8 hours is basically the developers of the game saying, "Oh, you want a happy ending? Fuck you, everyone dies." And it ends up becoming, and what's amazing is that they take it from being like playfully shitting on their fan base to being something actually genuinely emotionally impactful, and I can't believe they pulled it off. Especially with this fucking series. Sorry. I'm gonna be completely honest here. I think Deponia Doomsday is one of the best point and click games I've ever played in my entire life, and I've played a lot of them. It just hits the fence once it reached the ending. Like, the entire point of the game, it's this big ridiculous time travel story where Rufus is aware of all the things that are going to happen to him in the main trilogy, and he wants to like get his happy ending that he never got. But everything he does keeps making things worse. Everything other factions do trying to stop him from making things worse keeps making things even worse. And it just spirals out of control as everyone's trying to do what they think the right thing is. And I don't want to spoil what the game ultimately does, but it actually nearly got me to cry by the end, and it made me cry for fucking Rufus of all people. And when you can make me do that for legitimately one of the worst people I've ever seen in a video game, you have made like some high grade fucking art. It's a incredibly uneven series, but I do think it's worth the trip if you see it on sale and can handle a few really bad dark humor jokes, and there's a lot of them in Goodbye Deponia. It's very uneven, but goddamn, that final game, it's almost worth it all. So yeah, I really love Deponia Doomsday. A++. Fucking Jesus. I just went on for a while there, I'm sorry. I think we need to get to the main discussion. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Okay, so like Dark introduced earlier, Chantelise is an action RPG, dungeon crawling action RPG, made by Easy Game Station, who are most famous for Recettear and Item Shop's Tale, and started off as a Doujin Soft circle. It's making Azumanga fan games.
They also made a fan game for Threads of Fate called Duo Princess, which I really want to play that one day because Threads of Fate is not very good, but the main character, one of the main characters of that game, Mint, is genuinely one of the best protagonists ever, and she's like gets her own game, so yeah, I want to play that.
Yeah.
Just such a shitty person, and I love her.
Yeah, in Chantelise you play as Elise, who is dungeon crawling to try and find a way to turn her sister Shantae back into a human after she mysteriously turned into a fairy. And you go through these dungeons and you fight some bosses, and I didn't finish it, so I don't know how it turns out.
Yeah, I had to go on TV tropes.
I can say that I did finish it, and up until you reminded me which one was Elise and which one was Shant, I genuinely didn't know. It's just...
It's kind of hard to tell who's talking in the little
the one who's a
cutscenes.
fairy likes kicking people in the shins. That's funny. That's pretty much it.
I'll have you know that's incredibly funny. She was also the sexiest woman alive. Don't forget that.
I can believe it.
Yeah, we should mention that the group that translated this is Carpe Fulgur. They've only translated 4 games so far, and I think 3 of them are 3 of them are Easy Game Station games,
Yeah.
like
They also
Fortune Summoners and Recettear, as we mentioned.
Oh yeah, they did Recettear. I can tell. I really like the localization. Anyone else? Anyone?
Yeah,
I think they do a really good job. Like with this and Recettear is what I've seen them do, and I think they always do a good job.
Recettears would actually put them on the map and got this game translated in the first place. Like, their translation on Recettear was so surprisingly good for a game literally nobody had ever heard of, that it caught a lot of attention from a lot of people, started creating memes from the cutesy dialogue.
Capitalism
ho! And it generally had a good sense of humor about itself. They're not very literal translations, but that's a good thing because they pack in so much personality with each line and character, but they don't like go all annoyingly meme-ish or put in a lot of swears or anything. They write things like, "My feet and your shins have a date to go on," or "Holy granola."
In my time with Chantelise, I only ended up taking like 2 screenshots of it, but both are just like about the good localization. And one is Shantae. I mean, they're both of Shantae lines because she has the best lines. And one's just where she's like, "What the crap is this?" And the other one being, "Okay, dude, cut the horse poop. What kind of town would have a bald, burly bodybuilder like you for a holy father?"
Yes, if I had finished this game, I'd be quoting it all day.
They're just kind of like, they're fun and full of personality without just being like edgy. "What the fuck, man?" Or like they don't go over the top, and they don't meme it up. They just make it funny.
Yeah, they don't insert any jokes about American politics in a Japanese game or anime.
Yeah.
Funimation.
You're not one of those gamer gators, are you? I respect what they were doing, but that's it's just not good localization. Whatever.
Elmo has no idea what we're talking about.
Watch Prison School, Elmo, but not the dub.
No,
Oh my god, I don't think he could handle Prison School.
Trust me, if there's one anime you can trust me
I'm
to
imagining
have heard of,
Elmo
it's
watching
Prison
School right now and just losing it.
Does Elmo even know what Prison School is?
Of course I know what Prison School is. Also, my internet
What is
dropped.
it?
It's that anime about that kid who finds the Death Note.
Yeah.
I don't mind admitting that I'm
No.
single and I have access to the internet, so yes, I know what Prison School is. Let's just leave it there.
Okay, keep talking. I'm just gonna post stuff in the group chat.
I do want to briefly draw attention to, like, I don't want to make it sound like I do terrible research for these games, but I just briefly looked at, like, the Wikipedia page for Chantelise, and I would just like to share with you the entire Wikipedia page for Chantelise. Chantelise, A Tale of Two Sisters, is an action role-playing game developed by Easy Game Station for Windows. It was originally released in Japan in 2006, and an English version was released on Steam on July 29th, 2011. Gameplay needs expansion. Plot needs expansion. Reception. The game sold around 50,000 units. Conclusion of page. Just... So yeah, I was like, oh, I wonder if there's anything I can talk about on... Nope.
Yeah. Chantelise is annoying because as much as I love Recettear and the people who made Recettear, I've got to admit this is not a good game.
Yeah. There are positives. Like, as Danny said, the localization is pretty strong.
It has some good positives, like the localization. Character design's kind of but I mean, it's not bad. The writing's like always good throughout. I did look up the crab fight that you both have talked about, and like the intro to cutscene to that is hilarious, and even if the fight's and I really love the thing that kind of drove me to this game in the first place, attracted me to it, was the art direction. Like, I like the sort of PS1 look of it with kind of uglier 3D environments, low poly, but like really nice sprites in this 3D plane, and I think that like it looked good. And it was written well, at least the localization was. I just wish that the team had been able to make a better 3D game. I mean, Recettear's a fun game, but like it's not 3D. Like the biggest problem with it just feels like they don't really know how to make a game with 3D movement.
I can explain this a little better for everyone so we all get on the same page. Recettear is a simple game with simple controls. You have the arrow keys for movement, and then you have 4 buttons set up. Z is for either attack or jump, I forget which. X, vice versa, yeah. C is for casting magic, which you can do by gathering gems you collect from defeating monsters or destroying barrels and crates that are just lying around for no reason. And the magic system is actually pretty involved. Like, beyond just combining gems to get different spells, you can also affect the attributes of a spell, like collecting more red gems will increase its power. Oh, hang on, I wrote this down here. Crap, where did I write it down? Oh, yeah. collecting blues adds status effects, collecting greens adds more projectiles to the spell, and collecting yellows allows the spells to penetrate enemies. And if you combine a bunch of yellows with a single blue spell, you have just won the game. Congratulations. It's just, the blue spell just casts a stream of water that homes in on one enemy and hits them. But when you add in the yellow, that means it penetrates them and goes through them and then comes back again for a second hit. So that's game breaking.
And the magic spell stuff is really fun. Like that's a really neat addition.
But then you get to the fourth button. And the fourth button is the camera, and that's where the entire game kind of falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't figured it out yet, this is a game that should be controlled with at least one joystick for the camera, but it is controlled entirely with a keyboard, and the fourth button is solely for camera. You can lock on to enemies with it. You can hold it while you're fighting, so the camera's always behind you. You can like shift completely 180 degrees, I think. You can just shift the camera around. But it makes platforming difficult, especially like the first time I noticed this really badly was on the second dungeon's first area, where you have to go up that tree log and cross the little leaf bridge to get to the cave to continue.
Oh.
And I kept falling off the fucking log because I couldn't get the angle quite right where I could also see the leaf bridge.
See,
and
this is something where like using Steam Big Picture mode actually helped a lot, because it doesn't have controller support, but in Big Picture mode you can just plug in a controller and map all the buttons to the controller. So that's what I did, because I can't really play with a mouse and keyboard setup right now. So I just mapped it to my controller, and I was able to control the camera with the joystick, and it helped a lot. But like I still had problems with the camera that weren't about controller mapping. It was about
like how if you just leave the camera in use, it just moves around with you. It becomes kind of hard to focus on things, and thanks to everything not environment being a 2D sprite with limited animations, that means it's hard to get a gauge on just where an enemy's facing at a given moment.
Those problems, but also
remember the knights. Remember when the enemies you have to hit from behind because they have shields? And remember trying to actually hit them when you have an opening where they're completely behind you, but then they just flip around suddenly? Wasn't that fun?
And also the camera's in just a firmly set place behind the player. You can't move it up or down, and for like a 3D action game like this, I feel like you need that. And I think the camera should have just been back a little farther. Because
I think they probably just should have redone the entire game to be like Recettear.
Oh yeah, for sure. But if they're going to do 3D, then like they should have just pulled the camera back a little bit and given vertical camera movement, not just horizontal. Because like there were times I'd get mobbed by enemies, but like I wouldn't be able to see the ones behind me or keep tabs on them, because just the camera was too close, or I couldn't see above them to see how close they were, and I took a lot of damage from that, and it was annoying. And
I think Chantelise was like their first attempt at doing a proper 3D action game, because Duo Princess was done entirely in 2D like Recettear. So I guess they were trying to experiment, and the experiment went horribly wrong.
Yeah, it didn't go well, which is unfortunate.
I think I'm making it out to sound worse than it actually is at times, but because there's like nothing like outwardly wrong about this setup at first glance, but the more you play it, the more you realize it doesn't feel right.
I was having fun when I first started, and then like after an hour, it was just like, oh, this doesn't it doesn't keep. Like going through the second dungeon was when it hurt the most. Like it.
I like parts of it, and then I hit the crab boss and I gave up.
Yeah.
The crab boss is genuinely one of the worst bosses in video game history. The idea is simple. You just gotta hit it into the hole or trick it into the hole so you can have it flip over and then hit its belly for high damage. The problem is there's no level up system in this game, so even though when you die you get to keep all your stuff and just have to redo the entire dungeon part, which still isn't very fun. You can only get stronger by getting better equipment and getting like potions to increase your maximum health, but that won't do diddly poop if you have to go through the entire dungeon again, because you will get hurt in the process. And the prices keep going up very, very high very quickly, so you can't usually afford those items quickly, so you would have to do a lot of grinding for very little help. So the idea is to like equip properly so you're getting the right stat boost you need, but you only get 3 slots. And for the crab boss, even having like 2 swords, that still doesn't give you much bonus damage, and you also end up taking a lot more damage than usual. And the crab boss is annoying because you have to go up right in front of it and hit it 3 times in a row to move it back at all. And it can easily attack you and disrupt you in that time with its fucking claw move, which hits from the side that comes in so fast you can't actually dodge it without the proper equipment. And even then it's very iffy. Or it does that, and if it's not doing the claw move, it's doing the bubble move that hits right in front of it like a beam, and you have to maneuver around that first. But if you maneuver too long, you won't be able to get in strike range fast enough before it realizes you're in strike range and hits you with its claw.
Yeah,
so it's a nightmare.
From the
has
video
that
I
huge
saw,
area attack.
It wouldn't be so bad if you only had to like hit it on its belly like 3 times, but no, this is an action RPG. It has a health bar, and every health bar every boss in this game has is fucking massive.
From the video I saw, the best strategy was for that fight is to only pick up the blue gems, and
that's really hard to do when you're in the middle of the fucking fight.
And to hit it with a charge attack as soon as it's on its belly, because that was big damage.
I found a much better strategy for beating the crab. What you do is you go into Steam, you uninstall Chantelise forever, and then you play something else. To be honest, I'm just really bitter because the worst thing about the volcanic crab boss is that the final boss is worse. But I can't really even talk about it because it's like
I did. No, you can't. I watched some of it on you. I watched it on YouTube.
So bad. It's nothing really to say that much about the final boss except this is the final. This was just the final insult after the crab fight. I was lucky that the crab fight annoyed me so much that I couldn't be annoyed anymore, because it's the second boss fight in the game, and I will be talking a lot about the problems I had with the equipment slots in the game. But
oh yeah.
But after you beat the first boss, you get another equipment slot, which is very helpful, because you start off with only 2. So then you have 3, and you fight the crab, and the whole time I was thinking, this is terrible, but at least after I fight the crab, I can equip 4 things. That would be great. And I fight the crab, I eventually beat it, and then I get the message like, congratulations, you've gained power, and I was thinking, here it comes. And it goes, now, you can cast spells with 3 crystals! And I was just like, if the crab hadn't just pissed me off, you would have just pissed me off. So in a way, congratulations on making a horrible boss fight to, lessen the blow of the horrible reward you get. And yeah, the final boss, it's a head and 2 hands, and you have to defeat the hands, and they drop a lot of crystals, and then you have to pick up 4 crystals that are the same colour, target the head. Those 4 crystals, they'll summon like these little creatures that will attack the head, and then while the head is being attacked, that's when you can attack it for damage, and that's the only way to deal lasting damage to the boss. It's very long and drawn out, and it's a 3-stage boss fight, and you never regain health.
fun.
Yeah.
So, the positives before I just start screaming. I liked the music a bit.
Yeah, it was good.
There was only one song that I really liked. It's the bit from right at the beginning, on the plains. I think it's named The Plains. And that was very like old-timey PS1 fantasy adventure music. That was nice.
It's just frustrating. I was excited for this game. I was like, yeah, this game's gonna be fun. And then like, oh.
Yeah, I've been meaning to play this for a while, but now that I have, it's just... Oh, I did write down one other positive in my notes.
Yep.
The dopey skeletons. He. I also wrote down notes on the plot, but it's not very interesting at all. Yeah, like, everything that's going on just comes down to there's an evil demon being sealed away, and like sisters keep getting turned into, one of them keeps getting turned into a fairy, so like the fairy dust from the fairy can like empower the sword or weapon that the other sister uses, so they can go fight the monsters and keep sealing it away. And then like some woman named Fortuna at some point cheats the system a little, so giving a chance for like someone to have two fairies at their command at one point. Like, the shop lady turns out to be the human sister of one of these pairs, and the fortune teller, who actually replaces Elsie for a while, turned out to be a fairy at some point. But this doesn't really mean much, because all it's doing is setting up that the shop lady wants to sacrifice her life to end the cycle, but then Shantae and Elise stop her and then actually end the cycle. And that's it.
I just started skipping cutscenes near the end of the game.
Nothing that interesting really happens in this story. It's...
It's, you know...
It's weird, because Recettear's story is, like, hilarious. It's really hilarious and clever and has a lot of fun character bits, but Chantelise doesn't seem to have that, besides some dialogue between Shantae and Elise being fantastic. Like, even Elise gets some good lines, like when Shantae makes an actual intelligent observation about what the fortune teller was doing. And then Elise is like, wow, you were actually paying attention instead of just being passive-aggressive to her. And just... Yeah, there's like little moments like that, but it's not enough for this game, especially since so much of it is the dungeon crawling and the combat, and it goes on forever because everything has so much health.
One of the things that was a really pleasant surprise to me at the beginning of the game is... And this just made the crushing disappointment worse. It avoids so many of the action RPG downfalls that I was expecting. Like, the first time you ever die in this game, you know, for me, I was on, I think, the second big dungeon, and... No, I must have been on the first big dungeon. I must have died at some point. I definitely did not make it to that boss in one go. But,
Oh, yeah.
I died.
You're very weak at the start.
Yeah. You die, and immediately I think, let me guess, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to my last save point, and everything that I've just done, I'm gonna need to redo it, and all the treasure I've collected is gonna vanish, and all the levels I've just done, I'm gonna have to do them again, and all of the money that I picked up, I'm gonna have to do that again. And instead, the game is just like, ha, no. You just wake up with all of your money, everything you found, and all of the levels that you've done. You do have to run through them again, but to beat any level in the game you have to defeat all of the enemies, and then this magic gate kind of disappears from the exit. And once you've done that once, you still have to run through the level, but you don't have to beat the enemies anymore. So you can just run straight on through them. It's still a little bit silly, because, you know, if I'm going to be running through a level, you might as well just let me skip it. But yeah, I thought it was going to make me fight 3 levels in a row filled with enemies again, and instead it's just like, no, you've already done this. Just exit's right there. Go for it.
Listen, we're not sadists, but you are going to have to fight this giant crab here, and you're going to hate it.
And I did like the treasure itself. Every single level has a hidden treasure that you have to get by doing a strange objective, and sometimes they are pretty easy to figure out. There's one level where there's a lake, but there's all of these lily pads in the lake, and if you look at it, you kind of think, I bet I could make my way to the other side without ever falling in the water. And you do, and you get treasure. And then other times it's just weird, random.
Remember the one where you have to use the fishing rod on the final boss?
Yep. And then you die to the final boss because it's bad. The treasure does give you some pretty good stuff.
What is this, Sonic Adventure? Game developers, what are you thinking?
Oh, I would have.
I don't know enough about that YouTube guy who ripped off the Angry Video Game Nerd to keep that up. What was his name? The Earrate Gamer or something? Is he alive still?
Oh god, I remember watching The Third Rate Gamer, and he was just the best thing I'd ever seen. He was this great irate gamer parody who was like, he's talking about Cool Spot, and he goes, this game reminds me of Diablo, because in both games, you control a character. It's just all of this amazing stuff.
I just keep thinking of Aaron Hansen pretending to be the Earrate Gamer. Game developers, what were you thinking? What were they thinking? Gosh. Game developers.
Oh. Should I start on the equipment?
Go for
literally
it.
Literally half of my nose. It just says the fucking problem with the fucking equipment, and then it just says in brackets next to it, I know you didn't like the magic circle, Danny, but there was no need for this.
You have to say it properly. Game developers,
what were they thinking?
What were you thinking?
This game's a bunch of poopy ass dicks.
This is so dumb. Dumb game developers. Does anyone even remember who the Earrate Gamer is anymore?
Wasn't he that guy? He was the Swedish guy. Was it? No. That's. Oh.
Was he a racist? Shit, I don't think he was.
I like how by today's standards, the irate gamer is like, well, he's unfunny and he's ripping people off, but at the same time, he's not racist. Which means by today's standards, it'd probably be like the top half of YouTube comments. Just, Christ, internet, get it together.
The Earrate Gamer playing Chantelise. Oh, this crab boss, game developers, what were you thinking? What diarrhea?
Don't game developers know that having crabs is no laughing matter?
No, that's too good a joke for him to use.
My mom has crabs, and they're a lot funner than in this game. You're making me associate happy fun time laughs with Chantelise now, and that's not something I want to happen.
Go for it.
To be fair,
I
need to point out that I also had at some point looked at the Chantelise store page and thought, wow, this game looks really good, and bought it myself. So it's not like, God, Danny, why? It's more like, I would have eventually gotten around to this myself and just been disappointed in a more slow and alone way. So in a way it's nice. This is just group therapy.
It's a shame because Shantae is a role model and she should be in every game ever as the main character and kick people in the shins.
You want to know why I didn't finish this game?
Crab boss?
No.
Oh.
It was because I went to play it again after a while, and booted it up and opened it, and for some reason it bugged out, and the whole controller setup was just messed up, and the camera was just eternally spinning around, and for some reason the pause button was in the wrong place. And all the buttons. Did the screen look in any way hyper realistic, and someone was crying blood? This is important. No.
Okay, good. But you haven't been infested by evil Sonic the Hedgehog or anything.
But it was just like it just bugged out, like the controller input setup I had done, and I tried troubleshooting.
Did this go on for exactly 11 seconds? This is important.
I tried troubleshooting it, and like no dice, and I couldn't play with a mouse and keyboard setup. So.
Do you know what this means? It means you have a guardian angel.
I really hate bad-mouthing this game, but God, it's...
Let's get to the equipment.
This is like the Yakuza of the easy game maker output. Like, in theory, it's incredible. In practice, I want to die.
Let's just go play Recettear.
Oh god, I've actually finished Yakuza, and I'm still amazed I actually finished Yakuza, because half of the game is unplayable, and it is only remotely playable once you get the basic combat dodge, because then you can kind of move in a way a human might move, instead of a tank. Fucking hell. That's what playing this game feels like to me. It's just... I don't feel like I'm a human being, I feel like I'm a tank. And then everything else is a much bigger tank. And terrible.
So the equipment...
Go for it.
I think you already mentioned that in this game you don't level up. Yeah, you can buy potions that increase your hit points, but you have 4 main attributes, and that's physical attack, physical defense, magic attack, and magic defense. And you can also equip things that give you other abilities. But the problem is you need all 4 of these attributes. You absolutely just need them. It's really hard to tell which direction the enemies are facing, and I think just especially when they're like slimes or something. And about halfway through the first main dungeon, slimes just start like spitting a green gas at you that does loads of damage, and suddenly you realise that magic defense is actually really important. And so you have these 4 different areas where you need to have something equipped. You start out with 2 equipped slots. And I listed this in the positives, in that the equipment, it's a nice idea, and it's a strong base to build on, because I like the idea of giving players this choice of, you could properly be a tank. You could be like, hey, I'm going to be okay at everything, but I'm going to focus exclusively on defense. Or you could be a glass cannon, or you could be just a really strong person. You could be any of those things. But you can't, because you only have 2 equip slots, so you can only be one thing, and that thing is fucked. You are always just... You are never in a position where you don't need to have things equipped. And they give you all of these crazy like trinkets where it's like, hey, this one lets you run faster, this one lets you jump in mid-air, this one lets you do a specific jump attack, this one raises your crit rate, this one gives you more money. And those are all really cool things, but you can never equip them. Because you have 2 slots. And this... I've written like a little list of ways, because it's not just that this sucks and it spoils the game, but it sucks and it spoils the game in multiple ways. First one as mentioned, it ruins the potential positive of like, how fun would this game have been? Okay, still not that fun. But if you started off with like 4 different equip slots, and then you fight the first boss and immediately gain 1. So then, you've got 4, you're set to go, you can focus on something, you can start with a trinket. You could experiment, you could make your own kind of style of play. That would be really fun for this game. And you can't. Because you're screwed. And Dark already mentioned fighting Volcanic Fab. My experience with Volcanic Fab, this was my... Boss fights are supposed to be really fast-paced and frantic and high energy. When I beat Volcanic Fab, this is kind of how it happened. He's attacking me. Pause the game. Minus attack. Minus magic attack. Plus movement speed. Plus defense. Plus magic defense. Unpause the game. Run away for about 5 seconds. Like, oh, now I need to counter him. Pause. Physical attack. Magic attack. Keep the movement speed. That's too handy. Unpause. Run in, hit him. Oh, he's vulnerable! Pause! Magic attack, magic attack, magic attacks are the only way that you can deal heavy damage on things. deal a little bit of damage. Oh, he's back to normal now. Pause. I paused at least like 6 times per minute. And that just... Even if it hadn't been a rubbish boss fight, that would have ruined it.
What is this, Resident Evil 4? Game developers, what are you doing?
All I can think of is more Kvabs jokes, and I'm like, no, we've had a Kvabs joke. I don't want to reveal more about my mother's private past. Oh.
This game makes me crabby.
the probably just, this isn't the worst thing about the equipment screw-ups, but this is definitely the most annoying. It's just so easy to avoid. I would have been happy enough if they'd started off with like 3 equip slots and then you fight a boss and get 4, because then you're balanced for the entire game. That's alright. And it's just... I still don't think I would have been like singing this game's praises that much, but if you just started off with 3 or 4, that's all it takes to drastically improve the game. It's like somebody made a really good game, and you're looking at the beta, you're thinking, wow, this is an incredible game. This is like Super Meat Boy. You're playing Super Meat Boy, you're like, wow, this is fun. Good job, guys. And then they release Super Meat Boy, and you play it, and the menu screen is Hitler. It's just a picture of Hitler, and the background music is just him reciting one of his speeches, and you're like, no! This, how did you screw this up? All you had to do...
Hitler? That's racist. What are you thinking?
All you had to do was not that, and it would have been fine.
I think that's a good place to end on.
I think if I continue the irate gamer joke, I'm eventually going to reach the point where I make him the irate anti-fascist.
I don't think our discussion is going to top that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else you can really say about this game, because like it has a lot of promise. I mean, just tons of it, but none of it works. Like, there are clearly good elements here, but the base mechanics are so fundamentally broken by just like 2 bad decisions that nothing works, and I kind of hate it.
I have one more.
Oh, 3 bad decisions if you include the bosses having ridiculous health bars, because this is also an RPG and not just an action game. That will forever be the worst thing. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this, and I will not go back to it, but I will absolutely get us to play Recettear one day, because that game is good.
I think that game's over $15. Or else I probably would have recommended that one.
The max is 20 now. We're gonna play games.
I have just one tiny more equipment thing. And then but then I also have like 5 pages of closing thoughts, which I'm probably gonna cut down. So it's this is probably a good...
5 pages of closing thoughts. What are you thinking, game critics?
None of these words are synonyms for poop. Oh god, now I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, actually, a lot of these words are synonyms for poop. Oh,
this overly long explanation of your opinion is poopy dick. You gotta keep it short so the audience can keep attention. What are you thinking?
I'm sorry. Now I can't stop talking like this. I don't know how I'm going to function as a human being. This would be a good closing point for the Chantelise. In the middle of the final boss, where by this time you have like 4 things you can equip at least. But in the middle of the final boss, I was again stuck pausing, unequipping, pausing, equipping. And there was one moment where I just kind of stopped, because the boss was weak, so I paused to equip all of my strongest magic equipment and my strongest, physical attack. And I looked at my defense stat, and I realized that my defense stat in this game without the equipment I had, was literally exactly the same as when I had started the game 9 hours ago. And it just made me feel like, how have I progressed in any way throughout this experience? Looking at this thinking, you are literally exactly the same as you were at the start. You're just wearing a shiny hat. And, what were your final thoughts, Danny?
I wish that had been good.
Holy granola, game developers! What were you thinking? My feet and your shins have the date to go on.
Yeah, I can't say I'd
What
recommend
the
this
crap
to
is
anyone.
this?
Can't say I'd recommend this to anyone for any reason, especially with you get the same quality of writing and better gameplay and just more fun out of Recettear from the same developers.
Capitalism? What are you thinking, game developers?
Just go play Recettear.
I swear
yeah.
this is final thoughts. I don't have anything else after this. But I wrote a beautiful analogy.
Final thoughts? What are you thinking?
Oh god, I could try and read this in that voice. No, I'm not. No. I have to acknowledge there is a lot of good in Chantelise. A lot of ideas that I liked, and a lot of pitfalls that I'm really happy they avoided. But you can tell it's bad because this is a food analogy, which is always really smart and intelligent when you're talking about
Food
games.
analogy?
Okay.
Okay, go on.
If you go to a restaurant and you order a meal, and it comes out and like half of the meal is just so incredibly fantastic. It's been prepared with ingredients that were flown in from across the world. Gordon Ramsay personally showed up to cook this thing for weeks to make it just the most
Gordon
perfect,
Ramsay?
the most perfect meal it could possibly be. And then the other 50% of the plate is human shit.
Human shit? What were you thinking, Gordon Ramsay? Why are you yelling at me, Gordon Ramsay?
How much do I have to donate to your Patreon for you to go on Hell's Kitchen?
To be honest, I'd probably be scared, so I'd stop very quickly.
Signature dish challenge. I thought you said signature shit challenge. And he's just looking at you like, are you okay? Oh. Yeah, you wouldn't. I'd like to say the good and bad balance is out, but you wouldn't eat that meal. You wouldn't. You wouldn't say, I can just wipe the shit off of the good bits. You would just say, no, this meal as a whole is disgusting. And
It's mixed together like a chowder.
Yep.
Shit, chowder?
Yeah.
I swear that's it from me for Chantelise.
Dark, what are you thinking? You're running this joke longer than an episode of South Park runs one of their jokes. What were you thinking?
If I had a choice between South Park or 20 minutes of you doing that voice, I would choose you doing 20 minutes of that voice every single time. Literally just
Respect my authority!
I'm just walking around my flat and you're just like, you're opening the wardrobe to check that you have a work show tomorrow. What are you thinking? And I'd just be like, still better than South Park.
The irate gamer reading the phone book.
Aaron Aronson, what are you thinking? Okay.
We This is a good episode.
Chantelise is
Oh,
the Joe
God.
Danger of action RPGs.
Joe Danger?
Oh god.
yourself.
Okay, so what game are we playing next time?
You picked
Oh yeah,
it.
it's me.
Elmo, what were you thinking?
Oh, I don't want to straight up reveal it. I'm gonna give you guys one clue, and I want to see if you can figure out which game I've picked. This game is named after a lady who you might associate with cats. A kind of
The cat lady.
kind of
My number
cat
9.
lady. Okay, so Dark says the cat lady. Danny says Mighty Number 9. Is that your final answers?
Yep.
Yes.
You're both wrong, but Danny was definitely closer. When I think of cats, you know the show Friends? I think of the song Smelly Cat, obviously.
Smelly Cat from Friends, what are you thinking? Friends is overrated. It's terrible white people comedy. What are you thinking? Okay, I'm done.
Well, the song
Let's end this before I go on forever.
the song Smelly Cat on Friends is sung by Phoebe, who's played by Lisa Kudrow. Lisa, it's Lisa, we're doing Lisa.
Ooh.
Oh, fantastic. I've already beaten
Yeah,
that.
I just finished Lisa the Joyful the other. It'll be, I think, mainly Lisa the Painful, aka it's named really confusingly. It's gonna
Time
be
to
Lisa.
pull up.
Yay.
Time to pull up a walkthrough to get me through Lisa again. I tried playing that once on my own and just I didn't get it, and the second time
Oh,
through, I
you're
was just
gonna
like,
have-
okay, I'm just gonna do this while looking at a walkthrough. And I had fun, but I just fell off and didn't finish it. So yay, now I finally have to beat
I'm
Lisa.
sorry.
Oh, yeah. Which one are we playing? Lisa the First, Lisa the Painful, or Lisa the Joyful?
The painful, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be the Painful. Lisa the First is like 20 minutes, but at the same time, it's not. It's nothing
Actually, you can
particularly
just do
special.
all three because Lisa the First is just like 20 minutes and Joyful is just like 2 hours.
And at least I think Joyful is free with the Painful. At least I think it is.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's DLC, but it's not much.
So hey, Lisa.
So yeah. I hope you're ready for soul crushing.
You come into our club with no hair? You dandy fuck, what were you thinking?